Alright, so welcome to Papa's Garage. Nice hot Sunday. It's about 100 degrees out. Figured I'd show you what I'm doing. See, nice and warm out there. Show you what I'm doing so that I can get the garage door closed up. I've got to work on the fuel system of the Nova. As you can see, I've got the floor cut out, ready for some mock-up. And I've also decided I'm going to go ahead and cut into this part, and I'm going to separate the gas tank and also drop the battery down into this area here, because right now it's just kind of sitting here. I've got this built kind of holding it in place, but I don't like it. So we're going to sink this down along with the battery. We'll put a wall in, and then the battery will be in its own little separate compartment, just kind of make things a little bit easier to work with moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and yank this gas tank out real quick and then move it over to my welding table and start mocking things up. Be a lot of mocking up today, not so much welding, but we got to get everything ready to go. So let me stroll over here and get my magnetic mount if I can find it, and then we'll start getting to work on this car. Back in a moment. So I got my little portable welding table my wife got me, which is kind of nice. My fuel cell, for those of you who haven't seen it before, it has the double outlet. It's got the drop so that when you're accelerating, your fuel goes that way, or goes out that way. So I'm going to have to build a little bit of a box with an outlet for the fuel. It does have its own sending unit, vent tubes on both sides. This was the one that I'll be utilizing because that's where the vent is on the car. And then I'm going to be utilizing the steel lines. The piece of steel that I got, I ordered online through Metal Supermarkets. After I had ordered it, the guy from Metal Supermarkets, roll on over here. The guy from Metal Supermarkets called me up and he says, hey, don't order this stuff online. Just call me and I'll get it for you. Mainly because when they shipped it, they bent the corners of it on all four corners, which isn't a big deal. I can hammer them out pretty quick. And this is going to have to be bent anyway, so it's not a big deal. But it's definitely kind of a hassle when it comes down to it. Yeah, I did save a bunch of money, so I took them anyway. But definitely, if you're gonna get your steel, go down to Metal Supermarket or whatever's in your area, and get your steel. Don't order it online. This particular piece is 22 gauge. It's a little bit thicker than you would normally put in the car. I think cars run around to 18 to 20 gauge. This is 22 gauge only because of where it's going. It's going to be at the bottom of the car. This will be sunk down into the trunk. And then, like I said, next to it here, I'll build another box off the side of it for the battery. And I haven't figured out what I'm doing with the electronics yet, but I'll come to that when it cross that bridge when I come to it. But I've got to get my fuel cell in and ready to go so that I can start finishing up the car. I am waiting a little bit, mainly because I've got to order drop spindles and I want to order coilover shocks. So I've got to wait for the next bonus check because that's about $500 worth of parts that I'm going to do to the front end before I put the engine in. It's also got to be steam clean. The brake booster is loose and out and ready to come out. I've got to relocate the power switch for the battery. Once again, that'll all go together. I have a power switch in the front, and I also got a power switch in the back. So I can kill the power at both of them. The back one's got a key in it. The front one, I'm probably going to go with a solenoid. I saw something on Roadkill where he had a solenoid out of a Ford, and he would energize it, and that would bring the power up. So it was almost an instantaneous cutoff. I thought that was kind of neat because that'll allow you to put the wiring, hide the wiring a little bit more. Right now, there's a switch in the engine compartment that is gonna move somewhere else. I haven't figured out where yet, but that's kind of where that is. So today, I'm just kind of looking at everything that I'm doing. I went over to Harbor Freight, picked up a brake. It's the inexpensive $69 one. We're going to mount that to a hunk of wood so that I can use it on sawhorses. So the rest of this video will probably be more about that because I do need my corners on this before I start building the walls. I've got my TIG welder out right next to me. Gonna have to stop down at Metal Supermarket tomorrow and get some scrap and start practicing TIG welding because I've never done it before. I can gas weld, so everybody's telling me, yeah, it should be pretty easy. We'll see how that goes. But I'm going to go down to Metal Supermarket, buy a bunch of scrap metal, just scrap metal, scrap stainless, and some scrap aluminum, and kind of mess around with it a little bit and see how that goes. But for this particular piece, I've got to get that brake done. I do have to notch out this area here so that it drops down into the bottom of it. I am going to probably build a small box that it sits inside of and then just run some rubber grommets to bring these lines out. It's got 2 lines. I've got all the AN fittings, but the Sniper setup uses 6 AN. These are 10 AN, so this is more than enough feed for that system. So I'll just have to reduce it down to 6 and move it from there. It is 10 to the first. It'll be 10 to the first filter, and then it goes into the Holley filters, and then to the fuel pump. So that's kind of a breakdown of what I'm doing today. So the rest of the video will be more than likely me working on building this brake. And as you see, it's a really inexpensive brake. Apologize for the sound quality. I do have a brand new mic ordered. I lost my little squishy thing on my mic, so now it sounds real tinny and horrible. And it's easier to get a new mic than it is a whole nother squishy thing. So that's kind of where we're at today. Any questions, comments, concerned? If you've ever done this before, shoot me a note. Any questions you might have, definitely send them my way. This is an eBay special. It's not real thick walled, so I'm kind of curious how it's going to work out. I've done a little bit of read a few of the reviews on it. They are, some are good, some are bad. The weld quality appears to be pretty decent. They only welded the edges. They didn't weld across the top or across the bottom, which I thought was kind of strange. But it is kind of what it is. It is water or fuel tight. So definitely the way to go. So without any further ado, let's head over and start building this brake. Okay, back to this piece. Measure it out, see where we're at with it. This is a 30-inch by 30 by 30. Our tank is going to be 20 by 24. But we've got the little parts that stick out. So out of the 30 inches, we know we need to bend up 1 inch. So using this as a guide, we're 23 inches to the edge of the foot on this side. So with a 30-inch piece, stay put, we're going to want to at least a 1-inch lip, and then this little bit of extra space will be good because we need to put bolts in with isolators and all that kind of thing. So we want to make sure that we've got enough room for everything. So if we bend 1 inch all the way around this, we should be perfect for what we need. So we're going to mark 1 inch here. We're going to mark 1 inch here. And I may end up double walling this. I haven't decided quite yet. I'll get that when I get there and see how sturdy it is and how it's doing. Then I'll go from there. But this being exactly 30 inches is going to push the limit of the it's going to push the limit of our brake. So we'll see how that goes. If 30 inches is really 30 inches, or if it's millimeters Chinese. So hang tight, and we'll get this all bent out. I'm not going to bore you with me hammering out the corners of this thing to get them straight again. I'll bring you back when I'm getting ready to break it. Alrighty, because we have to figure out how to make a corner. So I'll see you in just a bit. Sorry I didn't bring you over for it, but I was getting everything lined up. That 30-inch piece barely fits. So she's bent on the first one. As you see, it's tight on the handles, that's for sure. There we go. Bring her down. Loosen the clamp up a little bit. The thing I can suggest to you is don't leave your clamps close and ready to go on, because when you're wrestling a piece this big by yourself, it definitely gets to be interesting. It is exactly 30 inches, so it is definitely a nice, crisp line. Now time for the next bend. And what I'm doing is I'm lining up you can see the line just on both sides of the brake. So what I do is I'm bringing it up so that I can see the line, lining up my dot, making sure. Yes, I am. Okay, so she just needs to tap in just a pinch. Right there. Putting one clamp on, not super tight, but tight enough to hold it, because otherwise you'll be fighting the other side when it's time to bend. Come out just a pinch. And like I said, we're on that line. So just a bit. Just snug a little, not a lot. I'm going to bring the other side out. It lines up like so. And I got a clamp on this side. I'm going in a little bit with the clamp too, just to make sure that I got enough grab on the whole bar. Tighten that one. So we're in place. So I'm going to move this one over just a pinch. Get a nice angle. Like I say, this is heavier gauge than it's supposed to be able to do, and it's not having any trouble at all doing it. So one of the things I did do was take a couple of bends on it. Don't get crazy, just to kind of get it going. Bonk yourself in the head a few times, and voila. Next bend is there. One of the nice things is when you're doing this, it definitely helps this piece get a little bit tighter. So here's where the issue comes. You need to put bends on all four corners. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to cut into this the height of the bar so that I've got space to make that bend. So the easy way to do it is probably just grab the old tin snips and cut an inch out. That way everything's kind of lining up with everything else. And it'll make a nice sturdy square spot. So hang tight, let me grip my clippers. So we're going to have to come up this side and this side. This will be in the way of the brake when you go to put it in. So the easiest way to do it is just put a cut in it, fold it back or fold it forward. Either way, probably forward would be the worst way because it'll run into the thing. So it may have to just completely go away. And that way we can make that bend this way. So that way we have our tray, all four corners are cut. So I'm going to come up, we're doing it an inch. And we need to add some because we've got the brake also. So I'm going to make our cut about right there. And then just snip this on out. And if there's a better way, hey, definitely shoot me a note. Tell me, hey, you know what, you could have done this. Definitely open to any suggestions that you may have out there in the world. This is the only thing I could think of offhand. Fabrication is loads of fun. Everybody knows that. So let's do one side first before we cut the other side. That way, if we run across something a better way, we've got it covered. Got that one done. Once again, come to this side. Now remember, this side's narrower than the other, so it definitely makes for an easier way to do it. Line up our lines. There they are. Coming down with walls on here anyway, and they'll have a lip too, so we'll definitely be sealed up on this. We'll also, of course, use some, can't think of it, but seam sealer. And that'll make sure that this is completely watertight. It does need to have a drain in it somewhere, so we will be putting a drain in it. Just a matter of where we'll put it. In this particular case, I'm not going to go as far as I did with the other one. See what I can get away with. Bit here, but I can bend it back. I just didn't even think about bending it so that it could get in there. I'm just bending it back when I'm done. Again, be careful, this stuff is sharp. Maybe I would have gloves on, but I don't be able to feel the brake work. And voila. Notice, like I said, this corner here bent. But if you look, I can just take the dolly and bend it back. And that is it. So that gets us our tray. So shut down the camera, move you to the other side of the shop, and we'll see how everything sits. Here we got her back on our welding table. Like I said, the only thing we've got to deal with is this little bend here. Easy enough to get in there with the body hammer, straighten it out. And go a little bit farther. And voila. And then the same here. Putting a little bit of a curve on it too. Makes it so that when you get ready to do it, it doesn't stab you. Out. And one last one. Voila. At least we set this back on. Now she's going to sit a little farther forward. This area back here, we want to be able to have a lot of room for our drop, our fuel pump, and everything else. So this kind of gets us in the right ballpark of where we're going to be. Just got to measure it out, make sure we're square, make some marks. And then we need to cut the drop out, build a little tiny box for under there, and then we'll be good to go on the rest of it. Then we just weld up the sides, and then kind of meld it into the trunk floor. Like I say, the battery is going to be going over on this side. It'll be a completely separate piece, so we'll build this box, and then we'll build the battery box. A little bit bigger than we have to. It's got an AGM battery in it, so that's always good, but we definitely have our work cut out for us putting the rest of this in. So that's going to be it for today, to kind of give you a guide of what I'm doing and kind of show you that Harbor Freight tool. That was a real big one for me, was to see if I could get that Harbor Freight tool to work well. It appears to work just exactly what I need it to do. Like I say, over the next week, I'm going to go down to the supermarket, the metal supermarket, see if they've got a bunch of scraps so I can start practicing with my TIG welder. This will probably be all TIGged up. Haven't decided yet if it's going to be TIG or MIG, but probably TIG because I need the practice. But it'll have sides on it that'll come up to probably about here, and then it'll go into the trunk floor. So this will be sunk into the trunk. And that way it doesn't take up all the room. I am debating on putting a top across it. I am debating on running an inlet out the side of the car, kind of like the old Chargers had and the Mustang Mach 1s have. I think that's kind of a cool thing. But that would involve building a tube in a tube to make it safe. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. As you see, I it's kind of hit and miss as I go. Do what I do as I do it. Change my mind. This was going to go on the trunk floor, and then I decided, that trunk floor is not a very attractive thing. You've got the thing for your spare tire and all that kind of thing. This would be much better. This is a 20-gallon fuel cell, so it'll be much better sunk down to about 5 or 6 inches. I have to measure out where the drop is here for the feed because I don't want it so. Sorry about that. I had to change my battery real quick. I gotta remember to do that every time I'm looks like 3 inches is where we want it. Cut out. She's going to have to come all the way out. See if everything's got V's down, so. Need to just make sure we've got the clearance. Yeah, all I need to do is measure the distance of this drop. That'll tell us where we have to go with that. See, 6.5 inches to the back. And go 6.5 right there. Need to get my speed square and cut that hole, drop the whole thing down. Do want to put rubber isolators on here just to be safe. And then, like I say, I've got to build a box underneath for this to sit up in. And then we'll have grommets coming out of it. It'll be sitting all the way almost to the back. We do want to add, about that much to it. That way we can make sure we've got it all covered. So that is probably going to be the extent of the work we do on this today. It is late in the afternoon, and my wife just got home from work, so I'll spend some time with her. But that kind of tells you how everything is. We'll get this all measured out and a nice square cut out. Looks like 4.5 inches. That one went to 5, so they're definitely off. So we'll square those true and cut this hole. That way we can drop that tank down in here and then start building our walls. That'll be next week, in next week's video, but that kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing so far. We're gonna have a couple inches on each side of the tank, just for good measure. And like I say, we still have to build the battery box off to the side of it. I've only cut this part of the trunk out. I do need to cut the rest of it out for the box, battery box, but I don't want to do that until I've got solid measurements and this at least in place, clamped in place. And then I can kind of go with where I want to set the battery. I know I want it towards the back, towards the center, a little bit farther off to the side. We've got plenty of room in there, so we want to use up as much as we can. So that's about it for this week, Papa's Garage. Any questions, comments, please do send them. If you've done something like this before, I'm brand new with manipulating sheet metal like this with my brake. But it was the only way I could figure to do it and have nice, crisp corners. Wish I had it before with some of the body work that I have done on it already. But this definitely makes it so that the corners are nice and crisp. and for $70, it's a pretty good unit for what we use it for, I guess you'd say. I am going to use it to build a bunch of little boxes, build the electronics box, that kind of thing. So this kind of gives you an idea of how everything works. And then, like I say, I'm going to build sides. They'll also have a lip on them on all four. And that'll allow me to have a really good sealing area, really good welding area, and definitely get this thing sealed off. And like I said, I will use seam sealer on all of it. And then I will put some type of drain in just because it's a good thing to have. You never know. You get water in here, you know, anything can happen, but we'll figure that out when we cross that bridge. But that's it for me this week on Papa's Custom Cars. Like, subscribe, and like I said, if you're looking for anything, definitely shoot me a note. It is time to start learning how to use that TIG welder, so that's going to be interesting. I will bring you along for the ride and let you watch me mess it up, of course, because that's all the fun in it. But anyway, I will see you on the next video. Have a good one, everybody.